There are stories buried in England's royal history that still leave even the bravest historians shivering. Tales of decapitated queens, cursed hearts, and shadows that scream through palace halls. These are not fairy tales or ghost stories whispered to frighten children. They are real horrors recorded in royal chronicles and eyewitness accounts. Today we will descend into 5 horrifying secrets of Henry VIII and his wives. Secrets so dark, their echoes still haunt England's castles. So watch until the end, because each secret grows darker. And number 5 may change how you see royal power forever. But before we journey into the shadows, click like and subscribe to join history's hidden horrors, where the past never rests in peace. Secret 1. The Headless Carriage of Anne Boleyn, a queen betrayed in life, doomed to ride forever in death. They called her witch, temptress, traitor. Anne Boleyn was the woman who changed England forever, the queen who captured Henry VIII's heart so completely that he tore apart his own kingdom to possess her. But in the end, his love turned to hatred, sharper than any blade. She lost everything: her crown, her dignity, her life, under the executioner's axe. And her story didn't end there. Legend says that on mist-heavy nights near the Tower of London, a chilling sight appears out of the darkness. A black carriage drawn by 4 horses emerges from the shadows. But these are no ordinary horses. Each one is headless, their severed necks dripping with phantom blood that disappears before it touches the ground. The driver of this carriage is also headless, cloaked in rotting black velvet, holding the reins with skeletal hands. And inside that carriage sits Anne Boleyn. Her gown is dark as midnight, embroidered with gold thread, now dulled by centuries. Around her pale shoulders, a heavy fur cloak droops lifelessly. But it is her hands that freeze the heart. For in her lap rests her severed head, eyes open wide, with an expression forever frozen between shock betrayal and silent prayer. Some witnesses say her lips move whispering words no living soul can hear. A confession, a curse, or a plea for the justice she never received. Guards have seen this carriage glide through the tower grounds without a sound wheels, turning but never touching the stone. It passes locked gates as if the iron bars are air. Cold radiates from its path, curling around watchmen's boots until their teeth chatter in terror. Some say that as the carriage vanishes, the scent of decayed roses remains drifting through the tower halls long after dawn. Every year on the anniversary of her execution, the black carriage returns before sunrise, carrying Anne Boleyn from the shadows back to the place of her death. Her final journey, from crowned queen to condemned traitor, replays endlessly under the indifferent gray sky of London. For Anne Boleyn, death was not the end. It was only the beginning of an eternity where her dignity was stripped away, leaving her to roam forever with her own head in her hands. A queen with no kingdom and no peace. Secret 2. Catherine Howard's Eternal Screams. A teenage bride trapped forever in her final terror. She was little more than a child. Catherine Howard, Henry VIII's 5th wife, was just 15 or 16 when she became queen. To the court, she was a beauty to be displayed beside an aging, rotting king. To Henry, she was a spark of youth that reignited his fading pride. But her light burned too brightly, and too briefly. Whispers began to coil through the palace halls. Rumors of lovers' kisses stolen in secret promises made before she ever belonged to the king. For Henry, these whispers were poison. The betrayal cut deeper than his festering leg wounds. His rage was immediate and absolute. When guards came to arrest her at Hampton Court, Catherine panicked. She tore herself from their grip. Her hair unbound her nightgown, trailing behind her, like a funeral shroud. Barefoot, she ran screaming down the long, cold gallery, her cries echoing off the carved wooden panels. "Henry, Henry, spare me!" She reached the door to the king's private chapel. Her small fists pounded on it with such force that her knuckles split and bled. but Henry never opened the door. The guards caught her, dragged her back down the gallery, her screams dissolving into choked sobs as they hauled her away to imprisonment trial and death. Days later, her head fell beneath the executioner's axe at the Tower of London. But Catherine Howard never truly left Hampton Court. For 5 centuries, visitors have reported hearing her ghostly screams slicing through the silence of the haunted gallery. Some see her, a pale figure in a thin white gown, running endlessly, her mouth wide, in a silent scream, eyes wild with terror. They watch as she reaches the chapel door, pounds upon it with bloodied hands, before vanishing into cold, unfeeling stone. Her spirit is trapped in a single moment, the moment when hope was crushed under betrayal, when fear consumed everything but the primal need to survive. Catherine Howard runs that gallery for eternity, forever trying to reach the king, who once called her his rose without a thorn, but who gave her only thorns in death. Secret 3. Jane Seymour's White Ghost, the gentle queen, forever searching for the son she left behind. She was the quiet one, the obedient one. Jane Seymour never challenged Henry VIII's will or defied his power. She watched Anne Boleyn fall and learned one truth: silence preserves life. But even silent queens bleed. Jane became Henry's 3rd wife within days of Anne Boleyn's execution. Her beauty was not fiery, her personality not dazzling, but she gave him what no other wife could: a son. Edward VI, the heir Henry craved so desperately that he saw Jane as the ultimate blessing. Yet blessings in Tudor courts always came drenched in blood. Just 12 days after Edward's birth, Jane fell ill with childbed fever. Infection spread through her exhausted body like wildfire. Fever dreams blurred her vision. Her baby boy, tiny and frail, lay beyond her reach. Nurses kept him away to protect his health, and Jane died alone in her chamber, her final thoughts consumed by love she could not hold. But her story didn't end there. Every October near Edward's birthday, the servant staircases of Hampton Court fall silent as a pale woman appears. She wears a simple white robe. Her golden hair is hidden under a linen coif framing her gaunt, sorrowful face. In one hand, she holds a single flickering candle. Witnesses say she glides rather than walks her bare feet, never touching the stone steps. Her eyes remain downcast, unseeing, as if forever searching for something just beyond the candlelight's reach. The flame trembles violently, though no breeze passes. Some guards report hearing soft, broken whispers drifting from her lips, fragments of lullabies no child will ever hear again. As she moves, shadows twist unnaturally across the walls. Cold seeps into the stairwell, an icy sadness that chills bone and heart alike. And then, just as suddenly as she appeared, Jane's ghost fades back into darkness, leaving only the faint scent of candle wax and a sorrow so deep it silences all who witness it. Jane Seymour was Henry's true wife, the one who fulfilled his dreams. But in death, she became something else, a mourning mother cursed to wander endlessly with nothing but a candle to light her futile search for the son she died to give him. Secret 4. Catherine Parr's narrow escape from the flames, the queen who outwitted death by inches. She was called the Survivor Queen. Catherine Parr, Henry VIII's 6th and final wife, lived where others died. But her survival was not luck. It was the product of razor-sharp intellect and a tongue trained to taste the king's moods before he spoke them. Catherine was no ordinary Tudor bride. She was educated, eloquent, and deeply Protestant in faith. Her chambers buzzed with forbidden books and hushed discussions of reform. At first, Henry admired her intelligence, but soon courtiers whispered poison into his mind. "Your Majesty, the Queen preaches heresy. In Tudor England, heresy was treason against God. Punishment was death by burning, the purest fire to cleanse the foulest sins." As Henry's mood darkened under the weight of pain and paranoia, he signed her arrest warrant in a fit of rage. That night, Catherine discovered her fate. Terror clawed through her chest as she imagined flames devouring her flesh. But she was no fool. With dawn still hours away, she dressed in her most humble gown and approached the king's chamber. There she fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "My lord," she wept, "I am but a woman of weak wit, seeking only to please you. When I spoke of scripture, it was to distract your mind from pain, never to instruct your wisdom." Henry looked down at her trembling body. For a moment, silence ruled the room. Then, with a grunt of weary amusement or perhaps pity, he raised her to her feet and embraced her. The next morning, guards arrived to seize the queen. Henry roared with fury, "You fools, the queen is under my protection." They left empty-handed, but Catherine never forgot how close she had come to the stake. For the rest of Henry's life, she walked lightly, spoke softly, and hid her beliefs behind layers of obedience. She outlived the king by just over a year before death found her at last, in her childbed, not in flames. Catherine Parr was the queen who escaped death by fire. But each night as she lay beside a man who had murdered wives before her, she wondered which dawn would be her last, and whether her skin would ignite under the gaze of a king who believed burning cleansed souls. Secret 5. Catherine of Aragon's Blackened Heart. Did England's first queen die of sickness, or by the king's command? Before Anne Boleyn, before the chaos and bloodshed, there was Catherine of Aragon. Daughter of Spanish royalty, married to Henry for over 20 years. She was his first queen, crowned with love and devotion. But time withers all illusions. When Catherine failed to give Henry a living son, his passion turned to scorn. He called her old baron cursed. He tore England away from the Pope just to cast her aside for Anne Boleyn. Catherine was banished to Kimbleton Castle, living in damp stone rooms wrapped in furs to fight the chill. She was forbidden to see her daughter marry, her only comfort in a country that now treated her like plague. In January 1536, Catherine fell ill with constant chest pain and stomach agony. She weakened quickly, skin fading to a waxen gray. On her deathbed, she whispered prayers for her enemies, even Henry, who left her to die alone. But death revealed an even darker secret. When her body was opened for burial preparations, her doctor recoiled in horror. Catherine's heart was blackened and shrunken, studded with a strange, dark mass. In Tudor superstition, a black heart was the sign of poison. Whispers filled the castle halls had Henry finally ended her life with silent venom to remove his last obstacle to Anne Boleyn. Or was it Anne herself, desperate to see her rival gone forever? The Spanish ambassador reported to Emperor Charles V, "The Queen's physician says her heart was black and hideous to behold. All believe she was poisoned, and I see no one who doubts it." Modern historians suspect cancer, perhaps a tumor that darkened the heart tissue. But to those who saw her body, it looked like a curse made flesh. A punishment for loving too deeply, for standing too firmly, for refusing to surrender her crown, even as her husband tore her dignity apart. Catherine of Aragon was buried as the Dowager Princess of Wales, not as Queen of England. Her coffin lay under cold earth while Henry celebrated with Anne. But in death, her blackened heart became a final silent accusation. That betrayal kills not just the body, but the soul itself. These were 5 horrifying secrets about Henry VIII and his wives, stories of betrayal, terror, and restless ghosts trapped within England's darkest castles. But hidden behind these tragedies are even darker whispers, conspiracies that twisted the Tudor dynasty into a maze of murder imposters and forbidden bloodlines. In our next episode, we will uncover 5 conspiracy theories that shook the Tudors, including a shocking rumor that Elizabeth Parr was never a woman at all. So if you wish to descend deeper into history's hidden horrors, click like and subscribe to join us, where the past never rests in peace.